You think the future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hey, everybody, it is Wednesday, October the 7th. I'm Emerson Collins.
And I'm Del Shores.
And you're listening to
The Del and Emerson Show. Straight talk.
Real guy! Our audience is on. Hi, Del Shores.
Hello, Emerson Collins.
How are you today?
I'm doing so well today.
I'm so glad.
I'm drinking my Red Bull, getting a little energy.
It's so funny. We were talking before the show, and Del goes, "Did I do anything this weekend?" And I was like, "No, for the first time ever, I have the what's happening report instead of us listening to where in the world is Daryl Shores been."
We always start with what we did, and I just realized that
you were here and working and
laid on the couch,
living your life.
Yeah,
that is okay.
What did you do? Because you had a great weekend, a great night.
This weekend, we went to Gay Days Anaheim, which is the sort of unofficial LGBT event at Disneyland, sponsored by, put together by two incredible guys. Eddie Shapiro's really awesome, and they do a whole bunch of events down in Anaheim surrounding Disneyland, including the big day at the park where everybody's supposed to wear their red shirts. But on Friday night, we went to Mickey's Halloween Party, and it used to be that you could only dress up as an adult in the park at Mickey's Halloween Party. Apparently, they recently changed that. But so I put on my leggings and my little red belt and a white peasant shirt and went as Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid.
Oh.
You can see those photos on my Facebook or Instagram. And Blake and his friend Darius, who was in town from New York, they're super Disney nerds. So Disney Channel recently had a movie called The Descendants about the children of the villains and the princes and princesses from the Disney movies. And so he and his friend Darius went as Mal and Evie, the daughters of Maleficent and the Evil Queen. And it was hilarious watching girls from age 12 to 25 lose their minds about it because it's such a specific costume. So that was super fun. And then on Saturday, we hit the park in the red shirts and saw lots of gaggle of gays around town. Alec Mapa, Michael Urie, all sorts of Frank DeCaro. Derek Hartley, the gay glitterati out in Disneyland. And it was super fun. And it's just a great way to sort of go and be like, we are just as family friendly as anybody else when we behave ourselves.
Why didn't you invite me? I'm hurt. I'm wounded.
It was on the internet.
Yeah, but sometimes you need a ride. Sometimes it'd be nice if a friend said, "Hey, Del, would you like to go with me and Maleficent's child?"
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm fine, Emerson.
I'm glad. It's good to know that your self-esteem will survive. And then, obviously, super exciting, the People's Couch Season 3 premiere was last night.
It was so good.
So we all got to see the first episode.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because, we shoot and we talk, as you guys listening to our show obviously know I can talk. We talk through all of these episodes for so long. So it's always funny for us to watch and see what moments they chose to edit in with all of the other families. So we watch it for the first time with everyone else the same way, and everybody makes me laugh. I thought the shows we covered were really great. And it was super fun.
But do you sometimes go, why didn't they use that?
Well, if I'm not that much of a narcissist. I'm like, what they are saying is funny. Sometimes someone particularly Julie and Brandy will say a funnier version of the exact same thing of something that I said.
They were on fire.
So it's, we all sort of, I always think it's funny what moments we end up all noticing. We watched an episode of Empire and they were obviously not playing a keyboard for their prison recording session.
I love that. I love that.
Every one of the groups, we all clearly picked up on the same thing because they showed us all air pianoing. And I always think it's interesting. And I think that's what people love about watching the show. It's this is the way a lot of people respond to television, and we say the things that lots of people thought or said with their friends and family while they were watching it. And so we live tweeted through the whole show. Everybody was really great, and the fans are so funny and tweet back to us.
And you were trending on Twitter.
Yes, which is exciting because the network pays attention to that kind of stuff. They look at how positive the response is and how big it is. And so it was super exciting.
Going back to that Empire, because I don't watch the show and everybody else does. I don't think I would have watched the show based on the clips I saw the other night on the People's Couch. It was odd to me, the tone of it. I think you must have to get into it because the tone was so big.
It is. It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
Have you not watched a single episode of Empire?
Not once. I know I'm the only person in the United States. Do you watch it, John? Yeah,
I mean, it is the soapiest nighttime soap opera like in the history of television, like literally since
it's
Dynasty.
so soapy.
As I said it on the show, and they used it every week. Feels like a season finale. It is that big and that broad. We're not chewing the paint off the walls in this room. We're chewing the paint off the walls in all of the rooms.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Yeah,
and I love it. It's campy and silly and fun. So to all of you watching, listening, that watched and tweeted and responded, thank you so much. I love doing it. It's a super fun thing for us to do, and so we had a great time.
Well, great job, and I'm glad it's back. So, all right, on to our equality update. What's happening, Mr. Collins?
All right, well, in our equality update, Brian Fisher, who got fired from one of those family places, was interviewed on his radio show that he still has, Alabama's Supreme Court Justice Tom Parker. Now, he was a former religious right activist and an aide to Chief Justice Roy Moore that, of course, we're all familiar with. He said the Obergefell decision by the Supreme Court does not even apply to Alabama, and then said that the Supreme Court had no grounds upon which to issue the decision in the first place because gays are not being denied equal treatment under the law since everybody is free to marry someone of the opposite sex. That's a new argument.
So smart.
So creative.
Yeah, I just love that.
And of course, and so he said, as a Supreme Court justice in Alabama, it is imperative that state Supreme Courts stand up to the U.S. Supreme Court in defiance of its ruling in this case in order to foment a revival that will return this nation to its founding principles. Now, dear Alabama, I feel like you should be worried. This is the Supreme Court justice in your state.
Do you think maybe they could return to,
Sender?
the slavery, and say, hey, that doesn't count either. We need our slaves back. I mean, it's just bullshit.
But it's not
It's
some random
ignorance.
person. This is the person who's supposed to be interpreting the state law and working in accordance with federal law as well.
Just crazy.
Still saying these things. And in other news, Kim Davis can't get all of the limelight. There's a new Kentucky clerk coming for Kim Davis's spotlight. Kay Schwartz was one of two other Kentucky county clerks who said that they would stop issuing all marriage licenses because of her religious opposition. Now, obviously, she has not gotten the same kind of press. She did not go to jail. Well, this week, I think that she's decided she wants some attention because she's decided that she will start granting licenses to bride and groom couples only. So now it's officially discrimination.
She's going to get some attention now.
It's officially discrimination. She said she would love to see same-sex marriage banned back in July, but they have their right to their belief. I have my right to my belief, so whatever they can do to take it away from my office, then so be it. So now she's planning to blatantly discriminate because I guess she wasn't getting enough attention, so I guess we'll see more.
I'd like her to turn to 1 Timothy 2:12. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over any man.
Oh.
She must be quiet.
Oh.
Shut the fuck up. If you believe the Bible, Kay Schwartz, shut the fuck up and resign. That's what I say.
Oh.
But I don't believe that scripture, nor do I believe a lot of the other ones that she's quoting. So just women, don't get mad at me. Please don't get mad at me. Just cherry picking like they do.
I feel like Kay Schwartz might be doing this just in time to be a Halloween costume like Kim Davis.
I saw her. She's not a good Halloween costume.
It's not terrible. It's just fine.
She just looks like some
memorable.
random Ann at a family reunion with bad potato salad.
It's just, I mean, I don't know. Just go as a bigot.
I did. I cracked myself up just now.
Always. I mean, nobody is a bigger fan of your humor
I
than
am
you.
a huge fan of myself.
That's how Del knows a joke works if he thinks it's funny.
I go, it worked last time. Oh no, wait, it was just me.
It's good to be confident.
Why did that fall flat? It worked the last time I did it. Oh, it was just alone at home with my chihuahua. Bitsy May, my chihuahua laughed, I think.
I know. And the funny thing is, y'all, obviously I think Del Shores is hilarious, but we spend so much time together. I hear these jokes 400 times. Like, he tells it to me when he thinks of it, and then he puts it in some piece of writing and reads it to me, and I laugh at it again. And then he reads those pages to somebody else, and then we go to a dinner party, and he tells the joke again. And at some point, y'all, I've learned to just plaster a smile on my face because my resting bitch face, what happens is I'll listen to a joke, and I'm like, intellectually, that's funny. I've heard it 10 times. It's funny. And if I'm like, because y'all, I have resting bitch face. That's the thing. So if I'm just sitting looking at him, he'll go, what? Is that not funny? I'm like, it was funny the last 8 times.
Yes. Well, I think you need to, I'm just trying to help you become a better actor. So you need to laugh enthusiastically as if it were take 8.
No.
And you're close up.
No.
Come on.
I do not need to patronize
Jesus
you
God.
every time.
Okay.
And all right, continuing on, of course, the saga of the Pope versus Kim Davis continues because Kim and her attorney said that he blessed her. He was so supportive of the things that she's doing. And then the Vatican, first of all, wouldn't confirm the meeting. And then finally they were like, yes, it did happen. And then apparently they feel kind of bad about what all has happened. And they put out a statement saying The brief meeting between Miss Kim Davis and Pope Francis has continued to provoke comments and discussion. I am able to clarify the following points. Pope Francis met with several dozen persons. Such brief greetings occur on all papal visits and are due to the Pope's characteristic kindness and availability. The only real audience granted by the Pope at the nunciature was the one with his former students and his family. The Pope did not enter into the details of the situation of Mrs. Davis, and his meeting with her should not be considered a form of support of her position in all of its particular and complex aspects. In fact, one senior Vatican official who declined to be named said there was a sense of regret over the encounter, which sparked widespread debate in the United States. Now, that Pope's gay friend that he met with, a lot of people have been holding this up as like, look, he's really supporting, he met with LGBT leaders and people, and no, it's great that he met with a gay person. They've been friends for 50 years. The man was a student of his in 1964 in Argentina, so they were very good friends, but the fact that he is gay is more demonstrative of the strength of their friendship than like some giant support for the LGBT community, so don't get it twisted the other way either.
Yeah, I said it last week. I said I'm not on the Pope train. You said, well, the Pope mobile is a very small thing or whatever. And yes, I said fuck the Pope. I said it, and I got some hate mail about it saying that it was disrespectful to Catholics. I'm a gay Catholic, and you saying fuck the Pope is. And I said, well, you know what? I don't respect the Pope. I'm sorry, and I'm still saying fuck the Pope because he's not supporting us. People are going, oh, he's better than this one. Yeah, well, guess what? He's still not supporting us. He's not making any changes, and we're going to see a story coming up. So I stand by my fuck the Pope. I'm getting T-shirts. Fuck the Pope.
Oh,
okay.
That's awkward. But as Julie Goldman said on the People's Couch last night, and it's why I think she's so brilliant.
That.
No, I'm going to finish what she said. She said, he's just a guy that works somewhere. For a lot of people. Like, if you're Catholic, great. Like, look, make him a lot, but, like, don't take it personally if somebody else doesn't like this person you happen to like.
Well, exactly. I'm not respectful of the president of the Southern Baptist Convention either. I'm sorry.
You are an equal opportunity hater.
I am. It's like, where do I put this hate? I wrote that, and you said it in Southern Baptist Sissies. And sometimes it feels appropriate. Hate is a harsh word, but there is kind of like maybe that's, I don't know what that is, but do I hate back? I don't know. Anyway,
yes,
I do.
You do.
I do. I guess I do. I'm human.
It takes all kinds. This is way off topic. I'm going to say it anyway. I learned a long time ago. It's very interesting. I think that it's like less than 3 people, or maybe none at all, and now I don't remember, signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. But it takes one kind of person to start a revolution, and then it takes another kind of person to build the compromises that come afterwards. But you can't get to the compromises, and you can't get to the tolerance, and you can't get to the understanding if people don't stand up and respect who you are for the revolution in the first place. So it takes people like you and Dan Savage and people out there, screaming in order for people to come behind and make the peace.
Well, I appreciate that because I do get a lot of flack, even from our own community, saying that I scream too loudly and I need to do it a different way. And I go, you do it your way, I do it my way. I don't criticize the way you do it. I only criticize when you do nothing.
Yeah.
If you just sit behind your computer and you criticize me, what kind of activism is that? Truly.
Right.
So, all right.
And exemplifying that story, over the weekend, the Vatican on Saturday fired a mid-level official in its doctrine office who came out as gay right before the big meeting, the Synod of Bishops from around the world, to discuss family issues, including outreach to gays, divorcees, and more traditional Catholic families. Christoph Karamsa talked openly about what it's like being a gay priest, indicating he has found personal reconciliation between his identity as a gay man and his church's teachings, and that he has a boyfriend, as many people of faith in the LGBT community and many LGBT Catholics have found. He said, I have to say who I am. I am a gay priest. I am a happy and a proud gay priest. I came out. This is a very personal, difficult, and tough decision in the Catholic Church's homophobic world. And he sent out this message to gay Catholics. Do not apologize for what you are, because you're full members of the community, in the case of the baptized, of the church. And the church doesn't have the moral right to deny your right to love and get married. So,
love him.
But exemplifying their continuing, they can say nice things or just not say anything at all, but you're going to fire gay people.
He got fired over it.
Of course, that might be more about the vow of celibacy and whatnot. If he's, saying, well, I'm having homosexual relations, priests are supposed to be celibate, period, no matter what kind of sex you're having. But then in the marriage synod on Monday, the Pope opened the Mass telling the roughly 270 bishops and Catholics from around the world, this is God's dream for his beloved creation, to see it fulfilled in the loving union between a man and a woman, rejoicing in their shared journey, fruitful in their mutual gift of self. I'm just saying that's pretty clear.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, so fuck the Pope.
Oh, right. I mean, I just feel like you're trying to start a porn line at this point. Y'all today.
See if that's available. Fuckthepope.com.
I would imagine it's not at this point. I mean, I feel like there's been
It's for sale for $10,000.
An awful lot of porn-related paraphernalia over the years related to priests and Catholics.
All right.
If you're going to send your hate tweets today, hate them at Del Shores.
Yes.
These I don't want.
I get plenty. Okay, well, let's flash through the gay news.
Yes.
We got some news. Tom Daley and Dustin Lance Black are engaged. And as Emerson pointed out, the Daily Mail had a hysterical headline. Tom Daley announces engagement to long-term boyfriend. Not Oscar-winning
screenwriter. I just love it because we're so American-centric in our pop culture that the UK Daily Mail, they were like, Tom Daley got engaged to some guy. I was like, oh, right, it's not always about us, even though he's an enormously important and celebrated figure in our community here for the accomplishment.
There's some very sweet pictures that we're posting in there too on them, and I sent him a little text this morning saying congratulations. I have not heard back though.
Well, I mean, you might be waiting a minute.
Maybe.
In our continuing TV news, I've been so impressed with Pete Nowak and the writing team behind How to Get Away with Murder and their continuing handling of this HIV storyline. And on this week's episode, they had the negative boyfriend reveal to all of his office mates that his boyfriend had tested positive, sort of to cover up another incident, and it caused a fight in their relationship. And the Oliver character talked about, he said, you told, your friends something that I haven't even told my friends and family. And it continues. I love them showing the nuance and the challenge of what that's like for people that are positive to come out of that second closet, to be comfortable not only dealing with their own process and journey through that, but to what it's like to come out to friends and family, and how it is a sort of secret because of the stigma associated with it so often. And I love that they're continuing that in that storyline and sticking away from the like, oh no, can we be together? And the guilt of he revealed how he got it, and it's complicating their relationship. And it's just really amazing and impressive to see such an open and correct discussion, I think, of one version of what that kind of relationship can be like. So I'm loving it.
I wish tell me, if I just started watching this season, would I be okay, or do I have to go all the way back?
No, you could jump in now.
I mean, jump in?
You'd get enough of the backstory as we go along.
I feel left behind. I'm not watching Empire. I'm not watching, this.
Well,
But I will be watching American Horror Story
tonight.
Yes, sir.
I mean, and literally the parade of like homosexuals and bisexuals and sexual, like, I cannot wait to see what's happening.
And just in time for Halloween.
I mean, that's not an accident.
No, it's not.
But I mean, those men's, Matt Bomer and Whitrock, Cheyenne Jackson, like, it is just the parade of pretty.
It's brilliant.
Although,
casting.
let's be honest, it's all those like fair-skinned, light-eyed, dark-haired men. I mean, Ryan Murphy's got him a type. I'm not mad at it.
And I like that type too. So yeah.
But it's like they are like all cut from that same cloth. They're all the guys that are going to grow up to look like Rob Lowe and John Stamos.
But what I'm understanding, and I don't know if this is true, I can't wait to see, is that supposedly, because serial killers have a type, and I think that plays into this. I don't know. I'm not positive about that.
Oh, that's what you think?
That's my theory. Let's see. Let's see if I'm right.
interesting.
Okay. All right. So we got the president back in the LGBT news. He mocks anti-Republican candidates, anti-LGBT Republican candidates. The president made the comments at the Democratic National Committee LGBT fundraising gala. Although he did not call them out by name, it was pretty clear who the president was referring to. And, quote, he says, one of their leading candidates argued that going to prison turns you gay. That would be Ben Carson. Another candidate boasts that he introduced an amendment to end nationwide marriage equality, which isn't even an accomplishment at all. Ted Cruz. Most critical of Mike Huckabee, he said, I'm sure he loves the Constitution, except for Article 3, and maybe the Equal Protection Amendment, and the 14th Amendment generally. So I love him for this. The president went on to argue that religious freedom did not give people the right to discriminate against LGBT people. Yes.
Amen. I love
President Obama.
As we're all up in this primary season, Barack Obama's just out there dropping the mic with zero fucks to give, like saying the truth. And speaking of, as we've it's time to get into the Democratic side of the primary process. We've stuck to the Republicans because they've had their debates, and the first Democratic one will be next week. But over the weekend, a very interesting thing happened. Both Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton spoke to HRC, the Human Rights Campaign. Clinton spoke in the morning to the staff, the board, and the volunteers, while Biden was the keynote speaker at the dinner of 4,000 people that night. Hillary had turned it down to make her appearance on SNL, which we'll get to. And they both expressed strong support for the Equality Act and strong support for trans issues, featured very prominently in their speeches, and correcting dishonorable discharges from the military for LGBT people, which we've talked about. And I think it's really great to see our Democratic leaders and our organizations stepping up for trans issues. That was the big discussion, that after marriage equality, even though, you know, it's something that could have been done all along, that this really is the focus, and to see people really putting the priority there for the trans community. Biden even went on to say there is no cultural justification for prosecuting, persecuting, putting in jail the LGBT community in any country anywhere in the world. And he went on to talk about LGBT youth homelessness, the difficulties faced by immigrants, the unconscionable practice of conversion therapy, and HIV treatment needs in the Black and transgender community. So we really do have strong focus from an official Democratic candidate, and Joe Biden, one that people are thinking, wishing, maybe hoping may jump in to the process as well. I think
it feels like he's going to.
I feel like the trouble that she is having may leave the door open for him to at least engage in the process through the debate. So we'll see. At the evening at that HRC dinner, Tim Cook was given the Visibility Award and talked specifically about the LGBT glass ceiling and how people may presume they will encounter discrimination as LGBT people in the workplace, so they may hold themselves back rather than risk fighting for success. And he said, people need to hear that being gay is not a limitation. People need to hear that being gay doesn't restrict your options in life. People need to hear you can be gay or transgender and be whatever else you wanted in life, which is awesome. You know, he's great and a huge, important figure in the business world. And so it's great to see him recognized and have great things to say.
Made me want to be there. We saw Joe Biden about, was it a year ago?
Yes. And he's always great on our
great
issues.
speaker. Yes, amazing.
And of course, Hillary continues to face a series of problems and pushback. There are people in our community that strongly stand for her and people that are definitively distrustful. She was on Meet the Press a week ago and was asked about her changing positions, including same-sex marriage. The host asked her to respond to critics who say her positions have changed out of political expediency and changed with public sentiment. And I know many people that feel that about the marriage equality issue. She said, well, I just don't think that reflects either my assessment of issues, and I don't think it reflects how people who are thoughtful actually conduct their lives. I mean, if we don't learn, if we don't make decisions based on the best information we have available, that's regrettable. On same-sex marriage, like a lot of people, including our president, I did evolve, and I was not raised to even imagine this, and I'm thrilled now that it is the law of the land, and I have a lot of close friends who are now able to be married because of the changes we've made legally and constitutionally. So I feel like that's true. I feel like we do, and we've talked about it before, have to give people the room to grow. You can bitch and moan and complain about how long someone took to get there, but once they're there, I feel like we have to be able to wipe the board clean and say, great, now what are you going to do for us now
and
that
look what
here?
Our president has done for us once he did make that stance. And here's the other thing. Here's another theory, and especially more for our president than her, in my opinion. I think he was always there for us. I think he politically said civil unions, maybe she did too, where they believe something else.
Well, I think that's part of the issue, is that I think a lot of people think that about him and don't think that about her. Because she put out an email. This email came out recently as well in the trove of emails that have been released. It was from 2011. They had changed State Department documents to say Parent 1 and Parent 2, and her email response said, who made the decision that state will not use the terms mother and father and instead substitute Parent 1 and 2? I'm not defending that decision, which I disagree with and knew nothing about, in front of this Congress. I could live with letting people in non-traditional families choose another descriptor so long as we retain the presumption of mother and father. We need to address this today, or we will be facing a huge Fox-generated media storm led by Palin et al. I think there's two ways to look at this, and I think how you look at her already colors your interpretation, because the phrase "I could live with letting people in non-traditional families" was extremely upsetting to a lot of LGBT parents in response to this. Now, the flip side of that is I think you can go to, at the political climate in 2011, we were heading to the Tea Party sweep of Congress. Her bigger issue was, this is not right now, I can't spend the Capitol defending a label on a form when we need to be focusing our attentions elsewhere. But it's this kind of thing that makes some LGBT people question her arrival on our issues.
And I get it. I totally, and I don't think that you can defend that email. I really don't think you can. It is in the past, though, and I think you have to look at that last sentence, or we will be facing a huge Fox-generated media storm led by... It was political. I don't want this political storm, you know, and that's what we're opening ourselves up to. Again, what you were saying, the Tea Party coming forward and bursting through. So,
but it is one of the things that is the, you know, it's why some people, even in our community, are resistant to her, while other people, you know, swing for her from the fences. So
I will tell you, the other day, I just, a simple post on my Facebook, I just said, if the election were tomorrow, who would you vote for? And I should have put, and just put a name. I don't want to hear, you should have seen the fighting that went on my Facebook page. It was just crazy fighting, and mostly about Hillary.
I mean, that's the nature of having been in politics for a bazillion years. You know, there is a long track record for people to come and go at. And then, of course, on Saturday night while Biden was speaking, Hillary appeared on SNL. And whether you liked it or not, there was a very interesting and funny section that I actually appreciated that she allowed them to make this joke at her expense. She was playing the role of bartender with Kate McKinnon doing her brilliant impersonation. And one of the other characters walked in and said, "My sister's gay, so thank you for all you've done for gay marriage." And Kate McKinnon, as Hillary Clinton, said, "It really is great how long you've supported gay marriage." Oh, no, Hillary, as Val, said, "It really is great how long you've supported gay marriage." And the Hillary Clinton character said, "I could have supported it sooner." Hillary said back to her, "Well, you did it pretty soon." Kate said, "Could have been sooner." And Hillary said, "Fair point," which I feel like is at least a nice acknowledgement of people's frustration that she was on the Democratic side, one of the later people to come around.
And
that is definitively true.
And it was a huge applause that she owned that. And did you think about? Did you go to that place though of being an actor impersonating the very person that you're standing and sitting right that was so brilliant that she never broke character. It was I thought Hillary Clinton was actually a pretty decent. Okay, not every second.
For those of you just listening at home who couldn't see the shady face that I just made at him, like, oh, okay, like
I thought she did okay. I've seen a lot worse.
Okay, I mean, okay, but she did worse than almost any actual actor would do. So, like, let's be honest.
Well, that's true.
That's my point.
That's true.
For a politician, she did great.
I would cast what's her name, Kate, as Hillary Clinton in the movie, not her.
But people, it's so funny. I can't wait to get to the Democratic debates. I've said it before. I'm in like with Hillary Clinton. I'm not in love. And I look forward to seeing our intelligent Democratic candidates really debate each other on policy.
When is it?
Next week. I believe it's next Tuesday, the 13th.
Okay, Tuesday the 13th. Listen.
So we'll be able to talk about it next week.
Oh, yes. Okay, and let's move on. We've got, I love this story for all the wrong reasons. Tennessee Republican offers apology to God to avoid wrath for gay marriage. Blount County Commissioner Karen Miller put a formal apology to God over America's legalization of same-sex marriage on the agenda, fearing that God will punish America like he did in the Old Testament. In her resolution condemning judicial tyranny and petitioning God's mercy, here's what she said, and I would like to go into her character. I'm going to try to do it differently than Kim Davis because I don't want the judgment that all my Southern bigots sound the same.
I mean, they do, though, so it's fair. Bless their bigoted hearts.
We, the Blount County Legislature, she's a little older, see?
That's fair.
Call upon all of the officers of the state of Tennessee to join us and utilize all authority within their power to protect natural marriage from lawless court opinions and the financial schemes of the enemies of the righteousness wherever the source, and defend the moral standards of Tennessee. We adopt this resolution before God that he pass us by in his coming wrath and not destroy our country as he did Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities. We adopt this resolution begging his favor in light of the fact that we have been forced to comply and recognize that the state of Tennessee, like so many other God-fearing states, may have fallen prey to a lawless judiciary in legalizing what God and the Bible expressly forbids.
Now, people want to talk about things that are terrifying. Like, joking aside, that is terrifying to me that you think a government resolution of basically a prayer is like a appropriate and productive use of government time, like as a law, as a resolution.
I just had visual of like, the wrath of God just going across the country and then just skipping Tennessee because of this, just skipping over, just hitting everybody else except, well, maybe not Kentucky because Kim Davis is saving Kentucky.
For the record, last night they did vote. They adjourned too quickly because a whole bunch of marriage equality people showed up in red shirts, and so there was not a vote, and the resolution is likely not to be reconsidered. But have you ever thought about, it's interesting, Sodom, got like a whole sex act defined by it. Sodomy. Why isn't Gomorrah-y a thing too? Why can't that be like lesbian, scissoring or something?
You bunch of Gomorrahites.
Yes. Like
it doesn't flow.
Sodomizing, Gomorrahizing. I guess it just doesn't roll off the tongue as well, but poor Gomorrah.
I love the word sodomite.
Weren't they equally evil? And Sodom gets all this credit.
And the neighboring cities. They didn't deserve a name. The
neighboring
cities.
Dan Savage turned Santorum into a terrible word.
Oh,
we should come up with a definition for Gomorrahizing.
Gomorrahizing.
Y'all, go to our Facebook or tweet us. Tell us what terrible, ridiculous thing we could make Gomorrahizing.
I think it has to do with maybe rimming or fisting or a combination. Maybe a rimming fisting combination.
Right.
Gomorrahizing.
Oh,
he Gomorrahized him.
Gomorrahizing. Gomorrahing.
All right.
Is it like what happens when when you pull the fist out?
Stop.
Okay. Moving on.
Stop. This is a family show. Stop it.
It is not. Y'all, it's so funny. We're talking to somebody new about helping us get sponsors, and there's exciting things, and there's some options and exciting things happening. I'm like, they could not put our podcast on any other platform because the degree to which it is inappropriate is...
That's why we can't. We have such good ratings and we cannot get sponsors because they're going, oh, they just talked about fisting and rimming in a combo act.
It's interesting. My parents have never said anything about our radio show.
They've never said, Emerson, great show today.
It's not once.
Nor has my family.
Well, anyway, in other genuinely serious news, we talked last week about Danny Pintauro coming out on Oprah as HIV positive and the degree to which he shared his story and his history with meth with Oprah, and then he has continued on the talk show circuit, and this week he made an appearance on The View, and it was weird because it was like the Child Stars panel because Candace Cameron Bure and Raven Simone were the only two people that interviewed him from The View, and I think that must have been the idea. It was like, oh, we were all famous when we were little, and look, one of us grew up to be mouthy, one of us grew up to be a bigot, and the other one grew up to be gay. It was like the panel of like childhood. But so the questions that they asked demonstrated abrasively and clearly the degree to which people with HIV deal with stigma and also the extreme lack of education surrounding HIV. Within our community, we do a lot of self-educating, and when it is something that we do talk about, maybe still not even enough, but we're far more aware of how it's transmitted, what the risks are, what the opportunities are for safer sex. And the questions these women asked, even if you treat them innocently, were incredibly uneducated, to say the least. After Danny talked for a little while, Candace asked him, do you take responsibility for your actions, for being promiscuous, going into a lifestyle of having heightened sex because of meth that you were using? Now, Danny, to his credit, immediately said absolutely. But this is the kind of question, when phrased this way, that contributes to the stigma of people who have HIV. And also...
going into a lifestyle is what pissed me off reading that.
Well, but even further, for being promiscuous. You can be promiscuous and be fully safe and protected. Like, it is slut-shaming and HIV shaming and all at the same time tied into one completely uneducated statement. I mean, let's be honest. She's a bigot and she's got an agenda. Because...
and a brother.
She, at the end of, and because then she continued, she said, I want to know what the message is because you want to be the face of HIV. What is the message that you have? What do you mean? And he responded again, I don't want to be a hero or the role model. I want to be the example of what can happen if you get into drugs, if you're being promiscuous, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not living a healthy, responsible lifestyle. So he's clearly new to being... to speaking on HIV, because a number of people in the HIV community have talked about their frustration with some of the interviews that he's given and the specifics of the degree to which he's talked about it, and that he didn't use these opportunities to turn around and talk about risks and behaviors and to separate number of sexual partners from risky sexual behavior, because you that's so you can have sex with as many people if you want. If you are on PrEP, if you are using condoms, go with God, have a great time. And then Raven Simone got invasively personal after discussing the different ways, as she said that you can get AIDS, which you don't get AIDS, you get HIV.
Right.
Many people with HIV, it does not become AIDS. That's the point of the retroviral medications, that until your T cells drop to a certain level, it isn't AIDS. She clearly doesn't know what she's talking about either. She turned and looked at his partner in the audience and asked him directly whether the couple now has protected or unprotected sex.
Wow.
And it was interesting because, one side of the argument is, well, you're out and you're talking about it and you've talked about the kind of sex you're having. You've talked about that you were having sex using drugs. You've talked, and so are there any unopened questions? But to turn to the partner who's sitting in the audience rather than directing it to Danny, who's being interviewed, seemed a little bit beyond a normal interview level.
Right.
To many people. And then to top it all off, Candace came with a pre-written statement saying, if you are HIV positive and still having unprotected sex, regardless of what antiviral drug percentages that you're using, you're still not keeping your partner 100% safe. So she clearly came with a sort of fear-based advertising campaign rather than an open and honest discussion about the ways in which it can be communicated, about the nature of his situation and the specifics of how he got where he is. And it was really just gross.
Did the other women, I didn't see this, did they all leave and it was just the three of them?
Yeah, it was just one of the interviews.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Okay, whoa.
So it was extremely frustrating. And he did well under the circumstances. I think he will continue to grow in his ability to have facts and statistics and information at his fingertips if he's going to continue to advocate in this way. But it was kind of gross on both of their parts. And then, of course, this is the one, and this is a more interesting, I guess, more controversial portion of his interview circuit. He told Us Magazine in an interview, believe it or not, with this guy, the guy that he believes he contracted HIV from, I was actually safe. We did use condoms. I got it another way, which was through oral sex. When you put all of these nasty things together, like a compromised immune system, having been up for a long time, drugs, rough sex, all of that combined with lesions in your mouth, bodily fluids, it's that easy. Now that statement has received a lot more negative response in our community.
Yes, it has. How do you feel about that?
Well, I understand it from HIV advocates' points because there is an element of on the spectrum of risky behavior. It has been established that oral sex is a significantly lower risk. It is not a no risk behavior. But I always go back to when going in for getting testing, when they ask you, do you use condoms during oral sex? Every time I've gotten tested, they actually stopped asking that question at my testing center the last time I went and I would always say, and anyone that tells you they do is lying. Like, who does that?
Well, I told you. I mean, I had this one experience where this guy. It happened where there was a.
But
one
experience.
It was not good sex. I mean, it was just odd and weird. But here's the deal. Here's in his defense, I do want to say that I admire that he is going out and that even if he gets it wrong, there will be corrections to be made about things that ultimately educate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I don't think he's gotten it completely right. I don't. Because I think that when he says, I was having safe sex, we did use condoms. Safe sex is not safe when you have lesions in your mouth. You have to know that that's not safe sex. If someone's coming in your mouth and it's not safe sex. Right. That's not. So that is an incorrect statement. I think he needs to rethink that and say, no, we were not having safe sex because I was doing risky behavior. If I got it orally that he has to say why he got it orally so that it doesn't put fear into, oh, God, I can get it through oral sex. No, you can get through oral sex if you have all of this shit going on. Does that make sense?
Yes. And the frustration, I think, from many addiction advocates and HIV activists as well is that if he's so sure that it's this one specific instance, was there no other use of meth with sex involved in any of the months around that he's able to articulate this one particular moment, and also that it contributes to trying to get rid of a little bit of the stigma, because part of the judgment that happens, that is why we work to reduce stigma, is that you're responsible. You were the bottom without the condom who allowed yourself to get this thing. You're responsible. And so there's some people accusing him of sort of trying to mitigate that sort of judgment, that sort of stigma by saying, no, but I got it from oral, and everyone does that a little bit. So I think that he is not as eloquent as he can be on the issue yet, but on the flip side, I think it's really hard, and because we don't have many people in the celebrity sphere, there's lots of great resources in our community talking about it a lot, and we need to be talking about it more, that there aren't a lot of examples of how to talk about this publicly, how to drill it all down into a 3-minute interview and make sure you use the right language, all of the right statistics, all of the right information. Hopefully, I think he'll get better. The one thing I sort of can't stand in this situation is the people who are looking at him and going, well, he hasn't had a career in forever, and he was tired of working at P.F. Chang, so he just finally did this because he just wants attention, and maybe he wants on the Who's the Boss reboot if that ever happens.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
And because my frustration was that is like, at what point do we stop being cynical? You know, he's had it for 12 years. He could have done it at any point in that if it was about his career. I think you look at, he and this guy have been, I think, married for a year, together for 3.5 years. It sounds to me more like they've been married a year. He feels really good about the place his life is at. He feels really good about having a partner to share this journey with, because this isn't going to be easy for him to keep talking about this, to be one of the few really celebrity
and to be
faces.
so criticized, and maybe he'll go back and say, no, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And I hope that doesn't happen. I hope he learns, but I just hope he looks at what he has said and say, and he can be open to saying, I can say that better. I can do that better.
Absolutely.
That's what I would like to see. Because I mean, I told you I have a friend who many years ago tested positive, and he told me that he thought he got it through oral sex. And I think there is as you pointed out, there's a shame to how I got it. Oh my God, I was so irresponsible that I got fucked without a condom or whatever. There was meth involved here as well, and now my friend says, I don't know how I got it. Come on, I was so fucked up back then. There's no way, and I don't know any meth addict in recovery really who is telling the truth, who can actually say, I mean, come on, I did the research in depth when we wrote the TED story on Queer as Folk. You're at a party and you're getting gangbanged. You don't know who's got a condom on or not. You don't. I'm not someone who's ever done meth, but I certainly have done research, and I know people well enough to know that I don't think that you can make a statement like that without going back and saying, maybe I need to reevaluate this. And you can argue. I know you.
Well,
can
but here's my only counter to that. I think that's true. But what I go to is, I think calling on him to be a better advocate, to be better educated, to be better armed with what he says and how he speaks about it is productive. I think accusing him of telling not the real story doesn't do anything for us. I don't know what it does for us to publicly doubt his, I don't know how that benefits anyone to say, I don't think that's how it happened. Well, none of us were there, so I don't think it does anything to look at, because to me, I think that is an instant judgment. Well, not only do I think, I think you're a liar. Okay, well, here's based on my experience.
I get what you're saying, Emerson, but here's what I feel about that. I feel like if you're going to make a statement like that and you say that you were a meth addict, that you have to tell the truth about what meth does as well. And meth,
but he did in that Oprah interview.
But to say I got it from this one person and I was doing meth and I don't believe that that anybody who has truly been on meth and has gotten off of it can go back and say I don't.
I get that, but I'm asking.
So what are you saying about meth?
What's your win in saying that, though?
My win is that if you tell the exact truth, that you can get people to say, okay, meth is really, really horrible, and it can cause you to do all kinds of irresponsible things. That's what I'm saying. That it's not just about how I got tested positive, but meth is such an epidemic in our community, such an epidemic, that I think you need to tell the truth about meth too.
Well, but he's talked a lot about meth. What I'm saying is you're people who look and say, I can guarantee you're not telling the truth.
I didn't say that.
I don't think that's productive. Well, I mean, it's kind of what you just said. It's really not likely that that's fine. You can talk about meth and HIV and all of those things together. I'm just asking, in our community, what is the win to say he's lying? Because it is also still possible, maybe he hadn't used it for 3 months leading up to that moment, and there was one night and one incident and one person.
That's true.
So that's my point.
Absolutely
so
true.
When we look at him and say, you have to be lying because usually meth is this, still takes away his power to tell his story. If the story grows, great. If we want to talk about how terrible meth is and they're linked together, great. He's out there talking about those things. But I just think when we look at someone and say, I'm pretty sure you're lying, where's the win?
Okay. I feel like that no matter what, I have to applaud him right now because we're talking about it, and there are people that are listening to us who are getting educated as a result of what he did. So I have to give him that.
Absolutely.
And I have to applaud him for that. And I am not in any way, I said it last week, he's a hero. I'm glad he's doing this. I'm very glad he's doing this. But I feel like that education on all levels is very important. So
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Flashing on.
Well, we got off.
No, but that's really important. And this is a really important issue our community doesn't talk about enough. And I understand people with your perspective. I totally get that. I just always want to allow for the possibility that we don't all know either because we weren't there. And it seemed like when he said that moment, like literally everywhere I looked, everybody was like, there's no way that happened that way.
Right.
And I just feel like,
get it. I get what you're saying. I want everybody out there who are listening to us, because people do get concerned whenever we go to this place. We still love each other.
yes.
we're just discussing. All right. Well, let's talk about the dads debate, parenting style on the doctors. A few weeks ago, we shared that beautiful story. Mickey Willis bought his son the Little Mermaid doll, and now there's a pastor named Josh Fierstein. And if you go to YouTube, you can see his horrible videos. He's anti-gay advocate whose voices obvious opposition to Willis's parenting method in a video with his children as props, and dismissed it by saying, "Since when do kids," and he talks like this, "since when do kids make good choices? Kids are going to choose candy over peas and carrots." I mean, it's just yelling. "I train up a boy in the way he should go by teaching him to use a firearm." As you liberal, spineless, no good coward kind of people, big vocabulary, since you want to be the gender neutral, guess who else I'm teaching how to use a gun? My daughters. Oh, this is horrifying. That's for you, guy who has no he said, "That's for you, guy who has no cojones, who needs to grow a pair and be a dad and train a child." And so they met up on the doctors, which I loved. And the doctor said, "What is wrong with that toy?" Josh says, "I'm not going to continue to do that voice because it hurts. What I address in the video is not so much the mermaid doll as the ideology behind the fact that we as parents, I think it's ridiculous. It's like we've become so politically correct that our brains have fallen out of our heads when Target has to remove from their shelves the idea that a toy is meant to be for boys or girls." The doctor interrupts and he says, good, because what I know about child development, since I have a degree, is if we can nurture children for who they are, they will find their own paths. And then Mickey said, "The fundamental differences between you and I believe that all people are born good, and you believe that all people are born sinners." That simple, that simply has an idea that what is that? Wait a second. That simple has us lose trust in the children to actually choose their highest choice. So when we don't give children the freedom to grow and cultivate their innate intuition and intelligence, they end up being followers in the system, and that's where trouble begins.
I loved it so much, and part of the reason I found that statement really interesting because it was perspective I'd never thought of before. There is something interesting about, how religion plays into people's lives. If you do look at, if people are inherently sinful and you're looking at your child always making sure that they're not indulging their sinful behavior versus looking at people as inherently good and encouraging a child to express themselves and explore themselves, that's really interesting. And I'd never heard it presented that way, and I actually found it really profound. And hysterical that this blowhard video guy got on the doctors and was sort of meek as a mouse when he was surrounded by not a super friendly audience. And to the flip side of that, in the South, I'm not you could also teach your boy with a mermaid doll to shoot a gun if you're a hunting family. He could also go hunting.
Of course he could.
And play with this. It's not either or. And that was sort of the entire point. And Mickey was so amazing and so articulate. And it just sort of represented the contrast between how you feel for the kids in the situation.
And also, if you're spouting Christianity, if you're saying, "Oh, Christian," and you say things like, "You liberal, spineless, no good coward kind of people," it's just complete.
It's not real Christian.
It's not real Christian. And and again, just cherry picking scriptures. He's a big boy. I mean, let's go. I always say I'm not fat shaming at all. I love anybody. I love them all. But if you go by the scriptures, big boy, you're a glutton, and it says to put a knife to your throat in Proverbs 23:2. So it's just ridiculous that they spout these scriptures, they spew these scriptures, they go to this extent, yet I believe all of the Bible. Bullshit, you don't.
And also, how fragile is your masculinity if it can be threatened by a doll or pink sheets?
Okay, you know what? I mean, looking at those two, that other dad is so much more of a man to me.
Yes.
He's such a good man.
So great.
So, all right.
And quickly, finally, checking in with Crazy. We hadn't had anything from Pappy lately. Pat Robertson had Kim Davis and Baronelle Stutzman, the flower shop lady, on the 700 Club to discuss losing their legal battles. And then Pappy shared this sentiment.
All right, I'm channeling Pappy. It was the gays. It was the gays said, look, we want rights. We want to be recognized. We want to be allowed to have unions. And now we want to be able to have marriage. And the Supreme Court said, okay, you can have marriage. All right, cool. They don't want to stop there. What they want to do is persecute anybody who disagrees with them. They want those people bankrupted. They want those people put in jail. Is that what the left wants? Yes, the answer is absolutely. It is vindictive now. We're not talking about having rights from the poor, oppressed gays. We're talking about taking away the freedoms of everybody who disagrees with them. Now, do we want that in America? And don't you think it's time people stand up and say, listen, we've got to take a stand for these people. They're being pillared in the press. They're being laughed at in the press because the press is in the leagues with the gay rights people. And they somehow think this is a civil rights issue. They better be careful what they are doing because they are taking away the rights of everybody. Scene.
I mean,
I'm going to go on the road as Pappy Pat. Going on the road as Del Shores as Kim Davis and Pappy Pat. A night of hatred.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you could just do like a monologue, conversations with Pappy and Kim.
My next show. All right, well, that's our show, everybody. Boy, that went by fast.
So much fun. As always, let us know what you think. Go to Del Shores' Facebook page at Del Shores Fan Club and mine at Emerson Collins Official, and you can send us tweets at Del Shores and at Actually Emerson. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you share out the broadcasts and let people know that we're here.
I will be heading to Atlanta Pride. Say hello to me. I'll be in the parade this weekend. My friend Clay's hosting me, and my friend Matt Belcher and Joey Helton. Excited to see all of you, and excited to go to Swingin' Richards.
Yes.
Good night, everybody. Thank y'all.
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.